And one of the biggest problems I see when it comes to data is fragmented silo data. You have your billing systems, you have your MRM system, you have PT systems, you have marketing data. It's all in different silos. And the beauty of AI is that we can use integrations in a very simple way to bring it all into one consolidated system. And when you have that, you can do analysis quicker, you can pull the data faster, and then you can act on it much, much easier.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. On today's episode, we welcome Ron Benamor, Director of Sales at DXFactor. In this episode, we dive into the rise of artificial intelligence and its growing role in the fitness industry. Ron shares insights into what fitness operators should be paying attention to as we head through 2025, and how to harness AI and data integration to drive member retention and build brand loyalty. With data being the new gold, this is a conversation you won't want to miss if you're looking to future-proof your business. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. If you joined some of us in the fitness industry at the Fitness Technology Summit this year, you may have ran into my guest. He also was kind of an all-star highlight in a lot of the videos that I made in the aftermath because he had this great candor and epic quote about artificial intelligence and the fact that it is really the leading force in our industry right now. So Ron Benamor, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome, and thank you for the confidence. That was my first video appearance, and it got blasted on social media. So I'm happy again to follow up with you. I appreciate the invite today.
Yeah, first video appearance and also first podcast today, I
Yeah,
understand.
it is. It is. So I got the jitters out. I'm not overly caffeinated. I got my water here, and my baby's taking a nap. So quiet setting. I think she'll be ready to rock.
There you go. You have the hydration at the ready. We know that well in the fitness industry, but really
Yep.
your expertise, of course, joining us from the DX Factor side is in what's happening in technology within this space. And I think the sentiment that we heard a lot at Fit Tech is sometimes this industry is one that kind of is a late adopter, or in tandem with that, there is a little bit of hesitation sometimes for adopting technology for the sake of technology. Will there be a return on investment? Would you agree with some of those sentiments that get tossed around?
Yes, yes, and as a salesperson, it can be a little frustrating sometimes trying to push the new technology. But I spoke with a CEO at Ursa earlier this year, came from the retail sector. He said that in his evaluation of the business, the fitness industry is at least 5 to 7 years behind other industries. And with AI, the speed of how rapidly it's evolving, I think that if you don't adopt this sooner, you're going to be probably extinct in the next few years.
And I feel like this time last year was kind of, I mean, obviously at conferences previous to that, people were talking about artificial intelligence. But when you talk about the conversation on a grander scale, seeing it in media, seeing it pop up everywhere, it really
Yeah,
was late 2023, where all of a sudden people were starting to play more with Chat GPT. And I'm talking about just general
yeah,
users within their homes. And for some, a little bit of fear over the power of this technology. For others, I mean, the minute you add some prompts and see what it unfolds, you're a little bit impressed. But to your point, it's been rapidly adopting tremendously. So today we're really going to focus on what businesses should be looking at in 2025. And where do you think, in regards to areas of fitness businesses, will this innovation play the biggest role into next year?
yeah. Yeah, I think there's a multitude of areas, specifically in the fitness sector. So if I look at a brand, the first thing that I think of is personal training. There's so much data of revolved around PT, and then the output of getting training plans, nutrition plans to the member can be optimized significantly by AI, and not just the content that goes into it, but the time that you can get it to somebody. It can happen now in minutes. So that's definitely one area. Second area would be member services. We've deployed a chatbot recently, but it acts just like a member concierge, answering questions that maybe they would call into the staff. So, like, do you have a basketball court? Tell me about your membership plans. Those are annoying questions that burden the staff. So, definitely on the member services front. And then marketing. I'm sure you know this better than anybody, but creating that marketing content can be done. It's so easy to do, and again, can be done so quickly that I know that there's so many different tools out there, but having one centralized platform AI system like OpenAI or now if you've seen recently Sora, which is going to do video content, that type of stuff can be just optimized greatly with AI. So those would be the three areas: PT, membership services, and then marketing.
Well, we know that fitness businesses have access to a vast amount of data. And there was a really great example actually at Fit Tech where they were talking about how hospitality does it so well in regards to higher end brands. The minute you show up at the hotel, they know what your preferences are. Maybe you go to your room. It even goes as far as the temperature is set to exactly how they know that you like it. And there may be different additions in your suite due to the fact that they are aware of what you want. But again, this level of personalization isn't always executed well within our fitness facilities. So tell me a little bit about how can AI tools help operators optimize the personalized experience for their member because they have the data, but I feel like there's a
Uh,
disconnect between the collection and how it's actually being delivered to their members.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you look at how like operators use software systems, so like every member has a member portal, and all that information is stored in some database, like their preferences on workouts, how often do they go to the gym, their member demographics. If you have all that data, you can spit out very personalized engagement to the member through a simple portal like that. So like they log onto your website, it introduces you by your first name, it understands, what your preferences are, it can say, okay, listen, like I know you historically have gone to see John for cardio 3 times a week. Well, John has another class next week. Let me propose to you a cardio class. So it's that type of stuff, just getting that all that data in one system, getting that information out to the member quickly, and then seamlessly getting them to book a class. So definitely on the PT front, you can infuse that personalization. Sorry, I just heard my baby crying
You're
about
sustaining life over there, so that takes priority.
yeah,
There's no
yeah,
AI
very important.
chatbot can be that's like, "Baby, soothe," although actually there probably is.
You'd be surprised. I've actually asked ChatGPT some simple parenting questions. Is there a better way of doing this, or is this type of thing normal? So I use it on a day-to-day basis. I'm starting to get to the point where it's like life before internet. Like I don't know how that happened. I'm starting to think like life before AI. What was I doing before I used ChatGPT all the time? So
I actually
hopefully I
relate
don't
to
lose
this
the way
in
to
a
think.
big, big way because I just came back from Hong Kong. Ron and I were
Yeah.
chatting about this before we joined the podcast because I was like, apologies, I might be really jet lagged today, but I'm going to do my best. But I did not realize before I went that ChatGPT is banned in Hong
Oh my
Kong.
God.
I know. And that to
It's
your point, I realized how reliant I've actually gotten on this
right.
tool. I know that my brain is an intelligent brain, but it adds an exponent to your being. It's my best assistant.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I realize it's almost like having 10 assistants. And I was like, oh no, the amount that it's streamlined workflow with even 1 year, it's shocking when you remove it from your workflow.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm actually very happy I didn't have AI in college because all the papers that I would have done would have been written by AI. And then I think at some point, this is probably a concern for future generations, but losing the ability to think on your own. A lot of people will defer to AI constantly. And in fact, I've seen some students at a library that I go to taking tests and having another computer open up with AI and just copying and pasting the questions. And one of these people that I know is a nursing student. So I'm not going to blow anybody on the spot, but I was like, whoa, like I don't want my nurse to be like asking open AI questions. You should be knowing that knowledge yourself. So it's definitely slippery slope for sure.
Yeah, all of a sudden they come to do the analysis and only use words like delve, landscape,
Mhm.
dynamic. There's some like AI tells that are certainly out there, but I know
Oh,
our conversation today is really drilling down to how you can utilize it most effectively
yeah,
in your business. And we've kind of talked a little bit about the personalization aspect,
yeah,
where it's going to make the biggest headway. But another one that obviously comes up time and time again because the focus in this industry all the time is how do we get the other 80%? And I know even that percentage
yeah,
has improved. So let's say, how do we get the other 75 to 77% of the population within the door? But there needs to be a lot of focus over the ones that are actually in your door. And
yeah.
starting every new year, we know what's going to happen. There's the huge surge of everybody, and then it peters down back to your regulars. So, how can AI best be utilized when it comes to member retention? Because I think one of the biggest benefits that I've seen discussed is the fact that these tools can recognize behaviors that might
Yeah,
indicate that you are going to lose a member ahead of time. So, can you kind of
right.
elaborate on some of these capabilities and why fitness businesses
Yeah.
should be embracing this type of technology?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So one of the things that comes to mind, I don't know if you recall, but the FTC recently made a law called Click to Cancel. And all these gyms are going to have to now offer online cancellation. So one of the things that we're working with a big brand on is how do we identify members? First of all, how do we save the members that are canceling? That's a retention piece using AI. So the chatbots can help with that. And what it'll do is like you'll say, hey, listen, you want to cancel? Here are 3 promotions that we think would work best for you based on some data that we've collected, like PT class $20 off, whatever it may be. So that's one area that I think is very important is how do we save members that are already on the point of canceling. Now another layer to that is when you have this data, like usage data, for example, you'll know based on some trends that like let all your members that are leaving on average, they have visits a month or two visits a week, whatever that data may be. Now you can proactively offer those members based on usage data the promotions that do work best. So just a way of engaging them with the data and doing it very quickly in a personalized way helps with retention. And then I'll tell you just a short story on personal training. I went to a trainer for my gym locally in Baltimore a year ago, and I asked her for some training advice to help me reduce my cholesterol. I was actually shocked to find out that I had high cholesterol for my age. It took her, I think, 30 or 45 days to get me a PT report, things that I should be doing at the house. Um, the next year I went, it was actually a few months ago, and she spit it out to me in like a week. And I was like, what's the difference between what happened last year, what you did recently? And she was using AI to craft that data. So getting to me a lot quicker, getting me like the things that I crave in a frictionless manner, that helps with retention. So it's all about personalizing, doing it quickly, doing it in a way that is consumable, especially to a younger generation. I'm not going to be waiting weeks anymore for things. We're in the era of instant gratification. So if you get it to me quickly, AI can definitely help with that. So AI and retention, they're synced together. Absolutely. So
Yeah, that's such
yeah,
a great example because to your point, now if you were waiting those several weeks, you probably wouldn't wait. Like within that
no,
time, you would have moved on and found a different solution.
absolutely. Yeah, and even on the cancellation front, and this is going to be a big topic when that law comes down. But historically, gyms have made it very hard to cancel, and that's very frustrating. That to me is, shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to retention, because not only do you lose that member for life, more than likely, but you also lose the reputation that comes with that member. They're going to tell all their buddies, "Don't go to that gym." That makes it hard to cancel. So if you offer it in a frictionless way, like a chatbot, and say, "Hey, listen, I want to cancel," and then they offer you promotions, that's a more light touch way to retain a member. And we're seeing some trends. I don't want to oversell DX, but where we're saving 15% of members just through a simple tool like that, which that's real dollars. That affects the bottom line for a gym. Operators need to keep in mind is how do I use AI to comply with this click to cancel law?
Here is the thing is operators are swirling in data. And it's one thing when there's operators that have a big team that can kind of sift through and figure out what actions need to be taken. But
Yep.
how do operators navigate the fact that they do have this actionable data? How is it
Yeah.
best utilized to improve their business? And ultimately, let's face it, the bottom line.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So, I've been in the industry for 10 years, and one of the biggest problems I see when it comes to data is fragmented silo data. You have your billing systems, you have your MRM system, you have PT systems, you have marketing data. It's all in different silos. And the beauty of AI is that we can use integrations in a very simple way to bring it all into one consolidated system. And when you have that, you can do analysis quicker, you can pull the data faster, and then you can act on it much, much easier. I know just going back, like doing billing reports, and pulling it from different systems was such a headache for a lot of operators. So, like an OpenAI or a Gemini, whatever tool you're using, the integrations are seamless. Just here's the API code and plug it together. And then what we've been doing at DXFactor is using OpenAI as like a centralized database where I can use it on the sales front, our marketing team can use it, our billing team uses it, and everything about DX Factor is housed in one system. So that's the way I would think about AI is not only the reporting layer, the getting all the data, but centralizing all of those different systems into one tool. And then I know you used it. It's so easy to navigate because you're talking to it like you would talk to a person. So I will say to OpenAI, help me create a blog, blah, 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 and it'll spit it out to me. Where other tools, I'm not going to name any names, but the templates that can be hard to navigate and pulling all that stuff is so the conversational, humanized element of engaging with OpenAI makes it very easy to adopt, and that's kind of like a red flag or like a buzz for fitness operators because historically they're so averse to new technologies because the more complex they are, the harder they are to adapt, harder they are to use, and especially in this sector, there's a lot of I don't want to be ageist, but there's a lot of old heads, that are used to doing things their way. And even my dad, he's, close to 70 years old. He knows how to use OpenAI. So if he knows how to do it, there's no reason why, a GM that's been doing this for 50 years shouldn't. So the feasibility makes it a lot easier to get that actionable data.
Yeah, there really should be all members of your team just encouraged to play with it. But it is funny to your point. I had a good friend of mine who, just due to mat leaves, was out of the job market for a little bit, but she works in tech
Yep.
and decided, hey, I got to spruce up my resume and things like that. And I get a text from her and she's like, oh, I've been working on my cover letter through the day. A, I was like, oh, who really reads those? But B, I was
Yeah.
like, why didn't you just use AI to help you? And she's like,
Yeah.
it feels like cheating. And I was like, let me let you in on something that has transpired in the world over the last year or two. You can't go to any big business talk that doesn't emphasize the fact that if you do not
Oh,
use this, you're going to be left behind. So while we were texting, I scrubbed her LinkedIn. I scrubbed the job post she was going to apply to, prompted it, put it together, and spit out something that turned out, I mean, she's a brain, but a little bit more fine tuned and tailored for what she was after. And I'm just like, the power of it is so exponential. And in a time where labor is very expensive and labor shortages, I mean, it's not to promote shrinking your teams, but for businesses that may have to streamline for their bottom line, I mean, what are your thoughts in regards to how this may help with labor costs for businesses going forward?
yeah, that's a great question. I'll use that use case of the cancellation tool that we have. Um, a lot of operators, they have, 10, 20 folks that are focused exclusively on processing membership cancellations, agreements, all that stuff. That's a lot of man hours, 20 hours a week redirected to revenue generating parts of the business. That's a much smarter investment. So I always hate to say use AI to replace a human being because these are humans that obviously need jobs to support their life and their family. But if you look at it from a business perspective, using 10, 20, 100 hours on useless, trivial activities that can be replicated by AI is not smart business. And eventually that's going to bring down a lot of your costs or it's going to raise a lot of your costs. So, what we've been telling folks that use this cancellation save tool, take those folks that are processing cancellations, redirect them to finding members. That's a much better way of, kind of filling the gap of this cancellation. So, that's the way I would look at it. How do I take the manual work that people are doing and not say, "Hey, you're fired and get out of here," but redirect their skills to actually generating money. So
Yeah. No, that's such a good point, and it's exactly that. They are there are some actions that are those repetitive, trivial moments, and but you have very smart individuals that are executing them. So
yeah,
if you are to utilize their brain power in another direction, it
mm,
definitely can grow the business. But as we
yep,
kind of discussed throughout this conversation, with a great amount of data comes great responsibility. So I know when we talked in the beginning here, when taking on these types of tools, there can often be some fear associated because of the
yeah,
newness. But I also think that it's fair to say that there should be some caution as well around these because we do have great wealth of member data and now new systems being integrated. So obviously you do work on the tech side of things. So how is
yeah,
this best protected? What should operators be aware of? Or I guess what kind of questions even on the sales
yeah.
side do you get on this that can help kind of mitigate some of that concern?
That's a great question. So I'm not a lawyer by any means, but one of the things that I understand that operators and business people in general should be aware of is that when you put in proprietary information into OpenAI, they ultimately end up owning that IP. So what a lot of folks need to be wary of is like, let's say you've come up with a great application, some type of software. Plugging that code base into OpenAI may open you up to, losing that IP to like an OpenAI or a Microsoft or an Amazon. A lot of folks don't think about that, but there could be like a massive rug pull moment with OpenAI where they say, okay, I own all this information now. Let's block them out and then use this proprietary technology or IP to create our own, stuff. So that's one thing that I would definitely be wary of. I know a lot of folks use AI to support their computer engineering initiatives, but I wouldn't use it exclusively to build all your applications because there could be legal ramifications. So that's definitely one area that operators need to think about.
Yeah, that's that's a wild one to think about, like your first
Yeah.
comment there, and especially the fact that we start communicating with these tools as if we know them.
Yep.
So how easy it is to probably volunteer information without even thinking of what you're like the ecosystem that you're actually
Yeah.
inputting it to. God, we live in the
Yeah.
future.
Sometimes I think about that all the time, and there's a lot of movies out there, like 1984, or you can see even The Matrix, for example. And actually, I'm watching a show right now. You probably heard of it, but it's called Dune. The base storyline is that like civilization went extinct because of thinking machines, which is essentially AI. And even in the Matrix was the same thing. The AI models got plugged into, like the water systems and the electricity systems and just took over the world. So that's definitely a fear in the back of our mind. We just have to hope that our government and the regulators stay on top of this stuff. And hopefully there's a plug somewhere that if this thing gets a little too scary, we can just unplug it from the wall and just shut it down. So we'll see. But
I think
definitely
the
something to
wheels
think
may
about.
have already fallen off, but
Yeah.
what can we
Like
do?
I saw a crazy thing the other day where Kim Kardashian was at the mall. I don't know if you saw this video, but she has those
No.
Tesla bots, and she's got like 7 Tesla bots behind her, carrying all of her like shopping bags. And it looked like literally an image out of the future. And then recently I saw she broke her leg. So who knows if it was like a Tesla bot that like lost her mind on her and did something crazy, but definitely a concern. Definitely a big concern.
Well, if that was the case, I'm sure that Tesla's PR would have been all over it, being like, "How do we crisis PR, call him in. We
Yeah.
can't have this get out."
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, the Tesla big shot now is in the government, so that's a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, these guys have the guardrails on this stuff because in 100 years, I don't even know where this is going to be. Who knows?
Well, and I think even for many of us within the year, I don't think we
Yeah,
expected quite where we were going to be. Like to your point, we started this conversation. Like, if you're not implementing this in your business now, you will most likely go extinct as a result of it. When
yeah.
operators are looking to integrate new technologies, like again, you work on the sales side. So, what are some important questions for them to ask before adopting some of these new technologies? What's most helpful for them to explore?
Yeah. So on the sales front, when people want to, use our AI, the first question though always is like, what is the implementation like? And I always say it's pretty straightforward. What you need to, ask is like, first, the most important thing is data readiness because AI is all built off of the data that you input. So if your data is messy, which oftentimes for operators it is, the output you get from AI is going to also be incorrect. It's going to be the wrong output. So definitely get your data ready. Make sure that the systems you do want to integrate are open, meaning that they have APIs you can integrate them to. Because if not, if you have a like an old billing system or an old PT system that's on whatever old application, and it's not open, then you're missing a big part of your business that could be optimized through AI. So data readiness, integrations, and then just make sure your team is ready to. I would say now is the time to make sure they're trained on this stuff. Um, OpenAI, go online. It's free. You can use it for free, and you'll see how simple it is. So if you're well prepared now in a simple version, the free version, once you integrate all those systems and build a more complex AI model, you'll be a little bit more equipped to handle some of those, more robust, functions that AI can give you.
We are
Crazy.
inundated by information all day, all night, but kind of the whole point of our conversation here today is exactly pinpointing where your members are at, or potential members that are departing your businesses, and how do we say in the most concise way what they need to hear to keep them coming, or having tools available to them that it's going to create a frictionless experience. I know, as I
Absolutely.
say, I started this conversation off because you ended up the star of the videos that you were like, AI is the way. But as somebody that does have a huge appetite for the tech space, and clearly it's something you advocate for because you
Yeah.
sell it. But aside from artificial intelligence, when you look at the fitness industry as a whole and the conversations that you've had with operators and things like that, what do you think is going to dominate the conversations in 2025? Where should fitness businesses be looking, or what do you feel will be on trend?
Yeah, I'll say a couple things. First one, I noticed that this sounds crazy, but I noticed a
I
lot of
love crazy.
operators. Yeah, a lot of operators and brands have horrible websites. Take a look at your website for Christ's sake, and just make sure that it's up to date with the UI, the UX. I know you talk to Tony at American Eagle all the time. They're fantastic with that stuff. So refresh your website, because the reality is your website is an extension of your company. It's really a product, and if you don't have a good website, you're going to lose the majority of prospective visitors within the first 10 seconds. In fact, Gen Z and stuff, if it's not like easy to engage with, they'll just drop off immediately. And that's another area where the AI chatbots can help, and that's part of the website, I think. Um, Chatbots will be very important. I'll tell you just a quick story. I had a reservation through Hotels.com a couple months ago. I kept calling Hotels.com. The support line, like the old millennial and me, was trying to call, like, the helpline. They never answered. It just kept
Press
going
two,
for
press four,
yeah.
hangs up on you, start
And
again.
yeah, at a certain point, I just blasted zero like 100 times. It still didn't work. But anyways, I looked on the site and I saw they had a chatbot, and I engaged with the chatbot, and it resolved my issue in 30 seconds. So like that's another very easy thing that you can do. It's super easy to implement. It's also personalized. It's frictionless. These are all buzzwords that operators care about. So websites, chatbots. I'm going to summarize again for you, and then the third one would be mobile apps. I notice a lot of companies coming out to DXFactor saying, "Hey, help with the mobile app." There was a big, spurt of mobile app development in like the early 2000s, and I think a lot of people sat on that and rested on their laurels. If you look at your mobile app now and it's still clunky, or if it's just a responsive web page, just give it a facelift. Because a lot of the times your members are engaged. That's their first point of engagement, is that mobile app, and especially again with that Gen Z, Gen Alpha younger members. So this is all around the technology, the digital infrastructure. But if you don't have mobile apps, chatbots, and a good website, you can pretty much guarantee your member base is just going to be old. 'Cause
Yeah.
young folks are not going to go to it. Um, I know a lot of my younger cousins, that's the first thing that they see, and that's part of the reason why Instagram, e-commerce brands do so well, because they integrate with Instagram, and they have the images and they have a really easy UI. Amazon's a great example. Like I click on a button and it's purchased, and it's
Mhm.
probably to my detriment, but just the way that they constantly analyze user behavior, user data, and always optimize the website. I see a lot of laggards in the fitness industry when it comes to website design.
Well, and it's such a good point because we know even from the data, Gen Z is this largest growing demographic. I look behind them, alphas are going to be next. And especially
Yeah,
because Gen Z is adapting so much, and alphas are even, I mean, it's the generation that I know has caused a lot of headaches for those in the school system because they're
yeah,
so future forward. And it's like this collision of millennial teachers versus alpha, but they're ahead of the game. And at the end of the day, we should be embracing the knowledge that this generation has. I mean, you made the comment earlier, there is a little bit of a division in the industry, and I've had a couple people share that
yeah.
sentiment. Like the trailblazers that we have that have been ultra successful, yes, we need their voices, we need to hear from them, we want to learn from them, but they also should be equally giving platform and hearing of these young Gen Z entrepreneurs that are having success in the industry, because at the end of the day there is a big generational gap with
Yep.
how they've utilized technology throughout their lifespan. And so there's certain skill sets that they have that we just can't have because we didn't grow up the same way.
Of
So we can
course.
learn from each other in this tremendous fashion. And at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to get more people moving, and technology is going to be a tremendous tool to help us do that. Ron, you have been so fantastic on your first podcast. But before
Thank
we
you.
part ways, are there any final sentiments that you want to leave us on?
I think AI, do whatever you can to get as much research, use as many platforms, just learn about that space. Data. I mean, I can't say it enough. Like you have so much information that you're sitting on. Data is really like the new gold. So if you have that data, AI can help you leverage that data, create outputs, create experiences. Really, ultimately, AI is going to improve that member experience and also operational efficiency, which is a fancy way of saying getting you more money and saving you a lot of time. And I think the best businesses now intertwine like the old school leadership and like how you build a business with new gen technology.
Well, Ron Benamor, whatever you chat GPT to keep your little baby calm during the podcast, well done
Yeah,
you, because you did not get interrupted. And I just really
thank you.
appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much, and I appreciate the invite. And I feel a little weight off my chest. I said I'll do something super uncomfortable, which to me this was definitely a little uncomfortable, but you made it a lot easier. So anybody out there looking for their first podcast, definitely link up with Krissy.
Well, we look forward to seeing you on a bunch of them in 2025. Now you've set the stage, so really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Krissy Vann. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.